So you're thinking about moving to Dallas, Texas, but the interest rates right now got you a little bit concerned about making that move. Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in this video, and also talk about 100% interest rates, which you definitely do not want to pay that. But you haven't heard of 100% interest rate quite yet? Well, they're coming. Actually, they're here right now. But we'll talk about that and a little bit more in this video, and we're getting after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, you want to know everything there is about living in Dallas, Texas, and the surrounding areas, then subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market in Dallas. My name's Levi, my partner Travis, the team and I, we get calls, texts, and emails every day from people just like you, and you, and you, and you, looking to make their move to Dallas, and we love it. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. Happy to help you make that smooth move to Dallas. So as we mentioned, 100% interest rates, that's pretty crazy, right? You haven't probably heard that, or maybe you have. Well, the thing is that there's a lot going on in the Dallas market, but rest assured, if you're trying to make a move here, we've already helped over 100 families secure homes this year alone. Now think about that. That means we had to win 100 offers. And in this type of market, we're still seeing 15 to 20 offers on every single home, and inventory is down significantly. I want to show you a couple of different things and a couple of different articles real quick and talk about it. We're going to get to the 100% interest rates here in a second, but look at this. We can see here double-digit home prices gain. This is not just a Texas or a Dallas thing, but look at this. You scroll down through here and you can see that it talks about home prices going up again, even in March, and they're going to see it here in April. But look at this. You're still seeing some significant increases over here in the Florida area. I mean, Utah, this one kind of came out of nowhere, but Utah is a pretty big relocation market, especially people moving over from California and Oregon. It's one of the closest states to get to right there. Alabama, yes, people are even moving to these small community markets that are down here in the South and the Southeast. We're seeing that quite a bit, but you look at the Texas metros, still relatively low compared to some of these other areas that have had major increases, okay? So think about this, 21% overall in Dallas-Fort Worth. And this is something that what they talk about is affordability getting too much. Well, if you look at price appreciation, it says higher mortgage rates worsened affordability. On average, families spend 18.7% of their incomes on mortgages in the first quarter, and first-time home buyers spending 28.3%. Now that they say that if you go past the 25% mark of your income on a mortgage, that becomes unaffordable at that time. So that could be something you use as a rule of thumb when you're calculating these payments. And this is the thing I really want to stress to you is that, understand what your monthly budget is, and let's reverse engineer that to see, what type of, what's the price on a home you can afford. Because if you buy now, you're going to build in appreciation. And right now, with the way inflation and everything else is going, real estate is one of the absolute best, if not the best, hedge against inflation. And look at these increases. This is something that always happens when inflation rises, is home prices, home equity, and home appreciation, pretty much all the same thing, will rise as well, and they'll increase usually greater than the rate of inflation. Now, you're going to be very hard to find, rates of return like that on almost any other investment whenever there's inflation this high. But let me share with you another article real quick. This is something very interesting, is that Dallas considers restrictions on real estate investors. Now, this is a little bit modeled after Canada. I'm not really sure we should model much after Canada, but at the same time, they actually put a ban in the next 2 years, or over the next 2 years, to not allow foreign investors. Now, this article is talking about Dallas is considering it, and they're considering a foreign investor is anybody outside of Dallas. Could you imagine, if you're looking to buy rental properties, which we have helped several people from out of state buy rental properties here. Now, here's the other piece of that, is that this is what I was getting to with with 100% interest rate. Look at this. No relief for renters with Dallas apartment costs almost up 19%. We saw this last year. Rental rates were up almost 20% as well last year, and now another 19%. So the average apartment rents for around $1,500 for the first time. So think about that. If you're renting, that is a true 100% interest rate. You're not getting any equity out of that. So think about that. If rent is increasing by 19%, you are truly paying a 100% interest rate at rent. On top of that, there's no guarantee that rent is not going to be increased with you. In addition to that, these are just apartments. If you're looking for rental homes, we're seeing multiple offers and overbidding or overpaying actually on rental homes as well. So if a home is rented at $2,000 or listed at $2,000, it's typically going between $2,200 to $2,400 off, or $2,400 a month, because that's what's coming in for the overbidding. And we're still seeing 5, 10 to 15 offers on even rental properties. So that is not necessarily a safe haven right now. And the thing is that, you're going to pay a mortgage one way or another. Either you're going to pay the mortgage for yourself, or you're going to pay the mortgage for an investor, because they likely have a mortgage on the property you're renting out. And if you're renting out an apartment, they probably have a mortgage on the entire apartment complex. So if you think about that, not only are you paying 100% interest rate, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And at $1,500 a month, even if that is your budget, which they're saying this is an all-time high right now for the Dallas area, that could get you around, at current interest rates, think about this, around a $300,000 property. Now, those are hard to come by here in the Dallas area as well, and they're very competitive, and there are outside investors that are buying up those types of properties as well. That doesn't include taxes and insurance, so that's something else you would want to budget on top of that. But the main thing is that we've still found homes for our clients in those price ranges. So that's something to consider. And I think that's best to have a discussion with ourselves and the team to say, hey, this is something that I want to look into, because I'm going to make a move. And the clients that we work with typically have to make a move, or they're just so fed up with whatever they're dealing with in their state that they're ready to just get out. And no matter what they find here, it's more worthwhile to them than staying what they're at. But if you're transferring here, or your corporate office is moving here, or the company you work for is moving here, and you don't have a choice and you have to buy something, think about this. A lot of people say, well, I want to get to know the area first. Well, if you do that and you rent at the same time, you're probably you're going to move again, right? Because ultimately you're saying you're going to rent to try to get to know the area. You're already telling yourself you plan to move again in another year or two. But think about this, even at $2,000 a month on rent, that would be $24,000 over a year that you would throw that away, as compared to buying a house. Well, you could probably gain that, if not more than that, in equity in your home. And think about how that could help pad your down payment, or even put a little bit more money in your pocket to be able to use that to buy the second home. It's never wait to buy real estate. It's buy real estate and wait. So even if it's not your forever home, or doesn't meet 100% of your criteria at this time, the main thing is that we only have to find you one house. There's still deals out there to be found. And that's the key thing, is that's what we look at. You can look at all these averages, all these statistics, all these numbers. That really doesn't mean anything to a person looking to buy one home. They do take account for the whole market, and they are good parameters and metrics to look at, as a whole. But ultimately, we've been able to get deals no matter what. We have gotten deals under list price in this market. Think about that. Have you heard of anybody doing that? We've gotten homes at list priced. We've gotten homes slightly over list price. We've also gone $100,000 over on a house, but that is depends completely on the situation, depends completely on the client, depends on what you want to do, cash at hand, what you have to work with, what areas do you want to be in. All those are different factors that we have to take in consideration. But for us, we just have to find you one home. But, according to these articles, rent prices are going up. If you rent something only for a year, there's no guarantee on the following year. A landlord can increase that rent on you. They have the right to do that. And in this type of market, it would be wise for them to do that. Again, it's not hard for them to find renters either, because there's low inventory overall for renting as well here in the Dallas area. Again, Dallas is one of the hottest markets, not only for real estate, but for jobs, for corporations moving here. Very business friendly, tax friendly, friendly environment over here. And so that is attracting a lot of people. Again, as we've mentioned before, we don't have mountains, we don't have beaches, we're not landlocked. So that expansion continue to go out and out and out. And I believe that's one of the things that will keep home prices mostly in check here in Dallas. Is that, you think about Salina, Texas, which is just north of Prosper, which is just north of Frisco and Prosper, two of the hottest areas for people to move into right now. But Salina, Texas has 30,000 people as a population, but they're already positioned to grow that to 378. That's already approved, for permitting and for population growth to 378,000. Think about that. And that's going to happen over the next 10, 20 years. In addition to, over the next 10 years, Dallas is going to overtake as the number 3 metro. It's going to overtake Chicago. Now, Chicago and Houston have been the number 3 and number 4 population metros in the country for quite some time. We just passed up Houston over this last year, and now we're in a position to pass up Chicago even after that. That is a big deal. So the influx and the movement and the migration here is not stopping. And with the supply here, we're completely underbuilt as a country. They say on average at least 5 million homes underbuilt in the country. So it's just a supply demand. It's a inventory shortage. People are still looking to make a move. And so with all those factors coming into play, now I think about our clients that we spoke to last year that said they were going to wait until this year. Well, look what happened. Look what has happened now. Prices have still gone up. Now interest rates are up. But keep this in mind too. I bought the house I'm in right now. I bought in 2019 at a 5% interest rate. That was a great rate at the time. I mean, you hadn't seen that in years, and people thought, and everybody said that was an amazing rate. But what did I do? I refinanced last year to 2.25 at the bottom of the market. So that's something to keep in mind too. 5% is not a bad rate. Now, is that a 100% increase from 2.5%, a year ago? Yes. But if you look at that percentage increase, it looks like crazy. If you look at it from a percentage standpoint, it's doubled. And that's what all the people out there are saying on YouTube right now. You see it in every market crash videos. Interest rates have doubled. Well, they've gone to 5%, which is where they were at in 2019. And in 2019, it wasn't a big deal. All right. So just some considerations to keep in mind as you're moving forward, as you're looking for a property here in the Dallas area. The main thing is that the market's not letting up at all, really. Okay. We don't see that happening. And a lot of the experts are saying, at least in the Dallas market, we don't expect a slowdown or even where near a slowdown for the next 3 to 4 years. So this is something that, imagine the amount of equity you could have built into your house over the next 1 to 2 or 3 years. But if you are planning to stay here for the long haul, we always encourage people, buy a home as a personal residence if you're planning to stay there 3 to 5 years. If you do that, you'll weather any crash if there is a crash. But again, here in Dallas, your $600,000 house is not going to fall to $300,000. It's just not going to happen. Maybe it goes to $550,000, in value, but it's going to regain that as soon as things start picking up. But as far as the job market in Dallas, that's not letting up at all. And especially with corporations moving here, when they're moving here and bringing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, or even creating, thousands of jobs here, we're not seeing a let up in that either. But they are expanding out. And that's the point I was making earlier, is because we're not landlocked or locked up by mountains or beach or anything like that, we can continue to expand outward. And as long as we can do that, I believe that will always kind of keep prices in check a little bit, because people will be willing to drive out an extra 5 or 10 miles to get an extra, or to save an extra $50,000, $75,000 on a house. And that's what happens as you progress a little bit more out of town. You get a price reduction on your home, but at the same time, growth will happen that way. Texas Instruments building a $30 billion facility in Sherman, Texas. That's going to connect almost Oklahoma to Dallas. And we will be there at some point in the near future, maybe in the next 20 to 30 years. Dallas will just expand all the way up to Oklahoma border. So those are things to keep in mind. And remember, think about your parents and everybody else that said, oh, I wish I would have bought property 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, right? That's what every parent always tells their children. I wish I would have bought then. Well, think about buying property now in Salina or Prosper, or, these other areas where they have the room to grow, and they're still at very low population levels, and they're expected to just skyrocket with population and growth over the next several years. They're completing the Dallas North Tollway. So many of these factors come into play that I tell you what, if you're thinking about making a move to Dallas, it's still a good time. It's still a good time. And that's why you need to give us a call. We deal primarily in relocation. So if you're coming from California, New York, Illinois, Washington State, Oregon, DC, that's where we're seeing the biggest influx coming in from, then we have this down. We know how to help you make that smooth move, a smooth transition, don't be concerned. I know it's a lot because I've moved out of state several times myself as well. Now I've always come back to Texas because I'm like a boomerang, but hey, just can't stay away from the best place, right? The best place in the US, in my opinion. So, that's the thing. Just keep those different factors in mind. But if you're going to rent, you are paying 100% interest rate. You are paying somebody else's mortgage, and you're actually just throwing that money out, and there's no chance for you to gain any equity at all whatsoever. So consider that. Let's run the numbers. If you got a budget of $1,500, $1,700, $1,900, let's reverse engineer that, run the numbers, see what your affordability rate is based on the current interest rates. Still, even the homes that are in the $300,000 price range are still, they're hard to come by, but if we do secure one for you, they're going to grow, and you're going to have opportunity to always expand. And if that equity you can possibly make out to put down on a home you want to move into maybe in a year or two. So all those factors come into play. The main thing is give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. If you're thinking about making that move, and whether that's in 9 days or 90 days, let us know. Let's just have a discussion, talk through that. And, until next time, well, we hope to show you around town.